35192. Want to send a text to me? I'll see them there. AlanCoxShow.com. All the other stuff. Who is helping out in the video department today? Let me check. Roblert Blankenscoot. Roblert is back there.
Roblert.
All right, thank you. I mentioned before that our metal show on Saturday night is being preempted this weekend because of a late Guardians game. They're doing their first 4, of course, out there in Seattle. So 2 hours to midnight will not be happening this Saturday night. We will return next Saturday night. Guardians play their very first game of the regular season tonight in Seattle. That is a 10-10 first pitch against the Mariners. So I think 9:40 is when the pregame will begin here on WMMS. As we get into the last few seasons, or last few games, rather, of the Cavs regular. And he'll, I don't know.
You got to catch him, though, because he's fast now, because he's been working out.
He's very, very fast.
I am pretty fast, and I have a lot of stamina. I can endure a lot.
He's light on it. How did you get all that?
Oh, Orange Theory Fitness. Schedule your first free workout at orangetheoryfitness.com.
All right. I believe there are sponsors for the next round of Go Fund Yourself. We're going to start giving away $1,000 an hour next week, I believe.
I think
Are
it's
you
got a
okay
new name
over there?
Now, too, right?
What?
Does it have a new name?
Yeah, it's not Go Fund Yourself. It's like
What's it called? The
Buzzard Bookie.
Cash
Buzzard Booker,
Explosion.
yeah.
Oh, the
Buzzy
Buzzard
Bookie.
Bookie?
Buzzard Bookie. Yeah,
I don't
that's right.
appreciate
The Buzzard Bookie.
Why?
as a gambling addict,
Yeah, but you never had a bookie.
but a lot of people do.
Well, don't listen to those parts. When I give away the $1,000, don't listen to it.
Are you the bookie?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine Alan beating somebody's legs with a baseball bat?
Done it
'cause they
before.
didn't pay
Yes.
him?
I'll do it
I
again.
can't imagine
Of course
that.
you can. That's why I keep
Cutting
a Louisville
off-
Slugger in my trunk.
Cutting off fingers or like,
Well, let's not get out of hand here. I mean, there are certain ways that you can get your point across that don't require separating someone from any of their appendages.
just break them.
Mm.
How would you collect your money if you were a bookie, if you're not going to hurt people?
I would write them a strongly worded letter,
Not going to work.
and I would tell them, well, that's step one.
That's their first warning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's step two?
Mm. I'll let them think about that. Say, you don't want me to get to step two.
Step two, I show up at your home.
No,
Don't
I mean,
trespass, but shout aggressively.
You might have a family. I'm not trying to get pinched.
Are you a count to 3 dad?
I'm not.
I'm going to count to 3.
No. I mean, we have done that before, but our daughter doesn't really require counting to 3. So there's not a whole lot of that.
I just
Things
when
are
my kids
pretty
little.
Things are pretty loose in our house, and no, I shouldn't say loose. Things are pretty.
She seems pretty well behaved.
We're always laughing.
She
Yes,
listens.
she listens because there's no yell. We like Gwen and I don't yell. Neither of us grew up in a yelling house, so when we raise our voices, she immediately takes notice of that. And so, but that almost never has to happen. But, you know, for people who are yelling all the time when I had friends that were growing up in their house, it was just nonstop cacophony. And it's like, well, no wonder you can't get anything going around here, because if it's always at that pitch, then it never hits, how do you make your point in the din?
Right.
If it's pretty chill all the time, then they know something's going on.
I explained this to Brian because Brian has a bit of a temper, so he'll get loud sometimes when Blake doesn't. She's not a big fan of listening, and I kind of try to keep it even because I got screamed at all the time and I hated it, and so I'm like, just stay stern the whole time, and she tends to respond pretty well to that. Where I'm like, if you start stern and you keep it consistent, then she can kind of like respond. Also, that's what my therapist told me to do. And then sometimes she'll get loud when he gets loud, and then I'm like, guys, we gotta chill on this. This is starting to feel a little too much like home. We can't all be yelling at each other, you know?
Yeah, I remember going and staying with like friends of mine growing up, and a couple of friends of mine, their families were just always yelling at each other.
Mm-hmm.
The mom and the dad were yelling at each other. And for me, it was so night and day from how I was growing. I mean,
It's overwhelming.
oh my God. But that's how their house worked.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of, it wasn't like people were mad at each other all the time.
They're just
Sometimes
so
they were
loud.
loud and yelling and giving each other whatever.
Get each other the business.
My sister's house is like that. They like talk to each other across the house by just screaming from like the kitchen to the bathroom.
No.
And I can't stand it. I would be like, get up and come in this room and talk to me if you have something to
I'd
say.
rather you text me.
Right. Do not shout at me from across the house. I can't stand that.
When my kids were younger, they saw me yell a couple times, and then it got to the point like, hey, you guys know when I'm mad, so I'm gonna be there in a moment if you don't listen to me now.
Yeah.
So do you want me to yell at you and then you do it, or you just do it now and then be like, oh, we'll just do it now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Everybody's got their own, they got their own key that fits whatever that lock is. I was reading about a guy who got a 6-figure settlement because of an office birthday party that he made very clear he did not want, and they threw it for him anyway, and he sued.
See, this is why I wanted you guys to throw me a party.
So we could
When I said I didn't want anything, I had a plan. You guys messed it up.
Well, thank God, because
I could have sued. This,
I wasn't
for
looking
6
for
figures.
litigation. This is a guy in Kentucky. Kentucky man got $450,000.
God damn.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's a lot.
He sued his former employer because he made it very, very clear that he did not want a birthday party at work. And they threw one for him anyway, and it triggered a panic attack. And so he sued the company, Gravity Diagnostics, ignored his request to not have an office birthday party. He said, please don't do this. But the person who he talked to said that they just forgot. They flat out forgot that he had asked not to do it. First of all, how many companies are that all in on birthday parties? You think most places you go, hey, I don't want a birthday party. Okay.
I think it depends on
One less thing we've got to do. What the hell company is like laser focused on birthday parties?
if he was tenured, like maybe if he was there for a long time.
Do you know what tenure is?
You've been there for a long time?
No.
You're
No.
okay. Then I don't know.
Okay, listen. This guy said, hey, I don't want a party. And the company hosted a party for him. He suffered a panic attack, went to his car, practiced his breathing techniques, but this guy was an A-plus employee, ate his lunch, and then angrily texted his manager. And they were like, hey, we didn't do it to be mean. She just forgot. Honest mistake. So sorry. The guy's out in his car. The party's going on inside. And the next day, I guess people started giving him a hard time and accused him of stealing his other coworkers' joy. Boy, this doesn't sound like any company I've ever heard of in Kentucky. But, you know, it's a brave new world. And so that confrontation triggered another panic attack. Coworkers asked him to stop hugging himself, which is one of his coping mechanisms. When he did not, his coworkers walked out. They thought that he was about to get violent because he was... You ever see somebody like just get shaky?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at him and you go, thank God this person's not currently armed. Either they're sweaty, they don't know how to, you know. And so he sued the company. And he won. He got $450,000. Got $120,000 in lost wages, got $30,000 in future lost wages, and he got $300,000 for mental anguish. And they were like, he had normally been able to perform his job, but after this, just couldn't do it anymore. And he had apologized, I guess, for the whole thing. And then they emailed him a few days later and said that he was being terminated because of that whole thing. Hugging himself. And I mean, so from that perspective, the guy's kind of got a case. If they let you go, you know, everybody kind of goes, hey, sorry, we weren't trying to be mean, whatever. They let you go. That was the mistake on the part of this company, is just move on. You go, okay, well, you know, because of this, Frank didn't want this birthday party, but we threw it anyway. Or Kevin, rather. Kevin didn't want this birthday party, and we feel terrible about it, but, you know. But they sent him an email and go, yeah, you're out of here. Because he made the other employees feel unsafe, was what the other people said. The owner of the company said, my employees were the victims, not this guy. And but they lost. They said they'll appeal. So whether or not this guy gets any money remains to be seen. But listen, this is probably not unprecedented. I don't know. It's a clickbait story, but it is still interesting. Maybe you're one of these kinds of people. Maybe you're somebody who's prone to those kinds of panic attacks, and you work for a company that is laser focused on this kind of thing. Keep that in mind, that you might walk away with a sweet little payday.
This sounds eerily similar to an I Think You Should Leave sketch.
Which one?
Where he gets the hot dog stuck in his throat because they skip lunch, and then he's embarrassed, and then they fire him, and they say it's for something different, but he knows it was for that, and then he has to start the vacuum company that's made to suck hot dogs out of your throat. So basically, the guy in the sketch, he didn't have the money. He didn't win his lawsuit, obviously, but this guy did. So there is justice out there.
I guess so.
So you can't skip lunch. You can't skip birthdays.
When you said, I just want you to clarify. When you said when he went to his car and did his breathing exercises and had his lunch, you made a comment where you said, I bet this guy's an A+ employee. What did you mean by that?
This guy's got to go to his car and hug himself.
So what?
I just thought it was funny.
If it helps people calm down, what's the difference?
Well, maybe it didn't, because they were like, yeah, my employees felt unsafe. The guy comes back in shaking and screaming and,
Well, you've also never had a panic attack.
Huh?
Have you ever had a panic attack?
I don't know.
You would know.
How would I know?
Definitely know.
I'm sure there are people who've had things they didn't know.
No, not a panic attack.
How?
Because they are like
Is there one
uncontrollable events. Like,
is there one kind?
There is not one kind.
Then maybe I've had one.
No, you haven't.
How do you know?
Because if you don't know if you've had one, then you've never had one.
Untrue.
Not untrue.
If there's more than one kind, then there's conceivably a kind
panic attacks
that doesn't rise to the level of what you're talking about.
No, they are life-altering events. When
For you.
Everyone. When you have
You just said there's more than one kind.
When you have a full-blown panic attack like this guy is describing, where you're shaking and uncontrollable and have to do breathing exercises, you would think you would know that.
I guarantee you there are people who have panic attacks that don't go to their car and hug themselves and scream and cry. Guaranteed.
Okay, but what I'm saying...
So that's another kind of panic attack. If you're asking me if I've ever had one, I don't know.
Every panic attack I've ever had and all the people that I've talked to, so yeah, we'll go ahead and use whatever that phrase you guys like to throw around.
Anecdotal
phrase you like to...
No, when I'm making good
evidence?
points and you guys are like, oh, that's just anecdotal evidence, then you use anecdotal evidence and it's totally fine. Any panic attack I've ever had and anyone I've ever talked to with anxiety, like panic disorder anxiety, it is... You're like out of control of your body.
Fine.
It's super, super hard
I believe
to calm down and come out of it.
I believe you.
Well, so what I'm saying is I don't
But
appreciate...
not every person is that way. First of all, why are you co-opting this guy's pain?
Because I'm not co-opting it. I'm saying I don't appreciate you making fun of it by saying like, oh, I bet he's a great employee.
Of a guy screaming at his coworkers and hugging himself?
When did he scream?
That's what they said.
Nowhere in that story did it say that he screamed.
Yes, that's why.
It said he was hugging himself.
In the car. They said that's why the employees felt unsafe, because he was shaking and screaming, and they were like, you got to get out of here.
Yeah, but
is that a guy you want around?
Triggered his panic.
Understood. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm not saying that the guy did anything wrong in that sense. That is how that guy reacted to that situation. But he's a guy, and you got 20 other people in the office. Are they all supposed to go over and pat him on the back and hug him?
No, but he removed himself from the situation.
And then went back in and was shaking and screaming. From
the way that you read it, it was two separate events. He removed himself from the situation, came back in, people were making fun of him, and then that made it happen again. So he took himself out, did what he needed to do by himself to calm down. The other people made fun of him, and then that started it over.
And he got paid.
But my point is that I just don't appreciate the way you talk about anxiety in general.
But he got paid.
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's the point of the story.
Right. I understand the point of the story. I'm taking issue with how dismissive you are.
Of what?
Of people's mental health issues.
I'm not at all.
Oh, my God.
Everyone has mental health issues. You told me that there's not one kind of panic attack.
But what I'm saying is that...
So that means...
Like panic
that
attacks...
means...
If you've had a panic attack, you've known you had a panic attack.
Panic attacks like this guy is describing are not things that you wouldn't know you had.
What's the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack?
That I don't know. I'm not.
So then what are you talking about?
I'm talking about
you're telling me that I don't. You're
like
telling me that I don't.
Describing.
You're telling me that I don't know myself.
I asked you, have you had one? And you said I don't know.
That's
and then
right.
I said, based on every panic attack I've ever had and the people I've talked to with anxiety, it is not something that would just come and go as like a weird little feeling.
I'm not you.
I'm trying to explain to you that
You're explaining your scenario to me, and I believe you.
When I've had a
But
panic
you're
attack,
not
I
me.
knew.
right. So you think that something that is classified as a panic attack might be just a weird, slightly uncomfortable feeling?
That's not what I said.
So
you
how
asked
would
me
you
if
not
I
know?
You asked me if I had ever had one, and I said I don't know.
So
That
then,
means maybe I have.
so then classify what you think might have been a panic attack in your life.
I can't. Because if I don't regard it as such, then my answer is going to be,
So that's-
I don't know.
That's my whole point.
For you, you know right away.
It'd be like if I said, have you ever had an asthma attack? And you're like, I'm not sure. I've been short of breath once. They're not the same.
Well, there are various levels of asthma attacks. There are people who have deathly serious asthma attacks, and there are other people who are quite literally short of breath. There is a spectrum
Being short
there.
of breath is not an asthma attack.
I've known people who have been asthmatic and they didn't go to the hospital.
I'm not saying you have to go to the hospital.
But you also told me you didn't know the difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks.
I don't even know if there is a difference between a panic attack and
Panic
an anxiety
attacks
They're
attack.
two
are-
different words.
Yeah, panic
So what?
attacks are more often intense and can occur without a trigger. Anxiety attacks are a response to a perceived threat.
So an anxiety attack is what this guy had. I have panic
He said he
disorder.
had a panic attack.
Doesn't
So,
matter.
so you're telling him
they're
he
still
doesn't
pretty-
even know what he had.
No, I'm
I
not
think
saying
they're pretty-
anything to him.
I
They're
think they're-
very
He had a panic-
similar things.
He said he had a panic attack.
They're pretty interchangeable, though, overall.
I have diagnosed panic disorder, which means that mine come out of nowhere with zero warning. There are things that can trigger them. Usually a big one is grief. That'll trigger one. But there are times where I will be having a completely regular day. Nothing is wrong. And then your body just starts at it. And it takes about 30 seconds before you are completely irrational. So I get a little frustrated when you say things like, oh, this guy must be a great employee, where it's like, yo, he's not in control in this situation.
It's okay if you get frustrated with me.
So that's all I'm expressing.
That's fine.
Mary, are you going to have a grief-based panic attack tomorrow because you're going to miss me at the funny stop?
Yes, I think that I am. When I'm in Raleigh, North
This
Carolina.
better not cut into our joint vacation in Arizona, by the way.
It's going to come up again, just so you know,
I know.
while we're all on the golf course.
On the back nine. Hey,
Well,
Woody.
Getting a lot of texts from people that are saying they're
Alan.
having panic attacks listening to this argument.
Good. What's up, Woody?
Hey, guys, I just want to let you know that Anxiety Attack at the Disco is doing 2 shows at the beach from this weekend.
Shut up, Woody.
It's true, man. They kick ass.
Yeah.
Anxiety, yeah. But yeah, I don't know how to correlate. You know, who's right, who's wrong. You know, how when do you step on toes to where it deserves $450,000? You tell me.
Well, again, I'm not. This guy had his thing, and they had their thing, and he won. So, I mean, you know.
Well, so if I say the Alan Cox Show is not going to throw me a birthday party this year, you know, I'm off the Richter scale, so I deserve money.
Well, no, I don't
We're not your
I don't know
employer.
that this case, right? I don't know that this case is like setting a template that other people can go out and like rubber stamp this kind of thing. But
yeah, it's very bizarre.
it's a wild story, though.
And yeah, hugging yourself in the parking lot usually will get you fired if I.
Well, no, listen.
Right.
Mary's right. He goes to his car and he does his thing, and he's not bothering anybody there. But the people who were working there, they got freaked out. I don't know.
Anyway, Anxiety Attack at the Disco. It rocks.
He waited for
Say it
that.
third
Okay,
time.
thank you, Woody. Yeah, he really wanted to drill that in. I got to take a break. I will have those Louder Than Life. Talk about getting loud. Louder Than Life Festival is going to happen. And speaking of Kentucky, at the Expo Center there, the Kentucky Expo Center, the 3rd week of September. And they got about 4 dozen bands that are going to play. Foo Fighters and Rancid and Weezer, Limp Bizkit and Pantera and way more. So I got some weekend passes for you. If you want to go see that thing, I'll hook you up here coming back.
It's the Alan Cox Show.
Everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app or whatever smart device